What's up, bullies? Today, check this out. We're going to dive right into it. Chinese Bitcoin mining pools see further hash rate plunge on Sichuan shutdown order. This is a really big deal, at least in the short term, but I also think in the long term. Let's dive into this a bit. First of all, I love how they put the quick take here. We're on the blockcrypto.com. Of the top 5 Bitcoin mining pools, Antpool, BTC.com, and Poolin are experiencing a 10 to 22% plunge in real-time hash rate since June 18th. I'm shooting this on June 19th. So we're talking in the last 24 hours. The drop appears to be an immediate result of the Sichuan government's miner shutdown order on Friday. And from what I understand, it doesn't say in this article, but from the digging I've been doing around, all the mines have to be shut down by 12 p.m. Beijing time today. I don't know what time that is here in America, but I'd imagine it may have already happened at the time that I'm doing this. Again, Sichuan state-ordered power grid to cut the energy supply for 26 local mining farms. This means some things for Bitcoin. I'll dive into my take in a second. I actually think overall it's a good thing. Data from BTC.com shows that almost all the largest 15 Bitcoin mining pools by real-time computing power are seeing a notable hash rate drop over the past 24 hours, with some being as much as 46%. Again, 10 to 20% real-time hash rate drop since June 18th. Here's the chart of these 15 right here. Antpool being the top has gone down almost 20%, and the biggest one being 1T hash at number 14 going down 46%. But they're all dropping because they're shutting down their mining operations, and they're going to have to move them. So in the short term, that's going to mean because the way that miners get Bitcoin from mining has to do with the amount of hash rate going on in a time period, and Bitcoin's the actual algorithm or whatever adjusts itself for difficulty to make sure that blocks are done about every 10 minutes and make sure that everything stays on time. So no matter how much power you throw at it, you can't beat the system. The system is time released. If that makes sense. You probably know that, being a crypto person like you are. State-owned power grid to straight up cut off the power supply to 26 mining farms by June 20th, which is tomorrow. It also required the local power suppliers to expand their inspection and close down any other mining facilities that are using hydroelectricity supplied by the state grid or directly from small and private power plants. So they're going to be shutting down more than 26. It's just that other than these 26, there's just smaller ones, and they're going to have to find them. But they're all going to have to find their way to somewhere else. So short term, the hash rate is going to really go down, okay? And that's going to do some things. And plus, this is FUD. This is bad short-term news. So the price of Bitcoin has been dropping, and we'll get into more of that in a second. But these mining operations, as I showed you, I believe yesterday, we were looking over some articles about how a lot of them are looking to move to America. Now, that is really good because America, especially certain pockets such as Texas, seem to be pretty crypto-friendly. But the problem is how do they move their whole operation over here? It's very time-consuming and spendy, but mostly time-consuming because they have to put everything on container ships and move them over here, and it really takes time, and that's a lot of expense, not just the cost to move things, but the cost of missed revenue from mining. So some of them are also looking at closer places such as Kazakhstan and things like that. But overall, if they come to America, which I'm sure some of them will, at least portions of their operations will come to America because these are multi-billion-dollar operations, So they need to get going. They need to be somewhere more crypto-friendly. I really like it long-term for Bitcoin and crypto if they move over here because this is a more friendly place. And it's also good for America. Plus, this is where the U.S. dollar is, which is where the current, global financial standard is. So it makes sense that Bitcoin would have a bigger presence here in America instead of China. So I really like that. But to dive into the next thing, the Bitcoin drops ahead of looming death cross. What is the death cross? We'll dive into that in a second. What I want to show you here, Bitcoin declined over 5% in the past 24 hours as the price broke the $36,000 support, but it's still up 23% year to date. Now, the death cross could indicate a shift from a bullish to a bearish price trend. Now, here's what the death cross is. It's defined by a cross of the 50-day moving average when it dips below the 200-day moving average. So we got a chart down here we'll look at too in a second to really kind of sum that up, this chart right down here. But this is what Mark Newton, founder of Newton Advisors, had to say. He said the recent stabilization just isn't sufficient to suggest buying dips. So what he's saying is, Bitcoin's been hanging around in the $30-some thousand range, but because of the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, which are traditionally very strong indicators from a technical analysis standpoint of where something is headed, not forever, but in the short term or the coming near future, that's why he's saying that this current stabilization, this support that we've been seeing in the 30,000s, he thinks it's going to drop more because of the death cross. Now here's the chart. It hasn't, on this chart, they haven't crossed yet. The blue is the 50-day moving average, so it's the average price of Bitcoin over 50 days. And then the 200, the red is the 200, same thing. Average price of Bitcoin over 200 days. Now, the 50 obviously moves faster because it's a shorter period of time. So each data point has a bigger impact, 4 times bigger impact than the 200. Now, here we are. The 50 is at 43,308, and the 200 is at 42,886. So they haven't crossed at the time they made this article, but I have the chart pulled up over here, and we'll dive into that in a second and see if the death cross has, in fact, happened. Now, again, what this Newton guy says in this article, he says any break of 30,000 should lead to 20 to 25K, and that should be a better area to consider buying dips for a bounce. So that's what he's saying. He goes, if Bitcoin gets into the 20s, that seems like a better buying point to him than in the 30s. In my opinion, not financial advice, just my opinion, I like them both. I think 30 is a great price if you're looking at Bitcoin long term, because I'm pretty long term on Bitcoin, because I think it's going to be the financial standard of the world. And that may sound crazy to some of you, but I'm not saying it just to say it. Look at the trend that it has gone on over its existence. Look at what's going on. Look at the new players coming in. We've taken on now insurance companies, hedge funds are diving in. Next are going to be, bond markets and fixed income, such as pension markets, which are hundreds of trillions of dollars. Countries, El Salvador has went in on it, so we've already had the first country. Banks are going in on it. I showed you yesterday how Goldman Sachs was going in on it. This is all new stuff, and this is all development and adoption of this Bitcoin system. And no other crypto is actually decentralized other than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually the only actual decentralized crypto, the only decentralized blockchain. It is the standard. It will be, in my opinion, the financial north. It will be the thing. It will be the true digital gold. It will be the financial gold. But it's a much better asset than gold in a lot of ways, such as the stock flow model, which I'm not going to get into right here, but it just means that Bitcoin is more stable as an actual money than even gold, based on many, many solid metrics such as stock to flow, which, if you don't know what stock to flow is, stock is what it sounds like. It's the amount currently in existence. And the flow is what it sounds like, the flow of new into the stock, of new flow of new Bitcoin or new gold or new real estate, whatever it is. So gold has a certain stock, right, that has been mined throughout human history that we currently have in existence. And we also mine new gold every year. Now about every year, mining raises the stock by about 2.5%. So the flow is about 2.5% to this current stock. So meaning it would take but the actual stock flow ratio is 62. So I think I'm a little bit high with 2.5. It's probably a little under 2. That means that it would take 62 years of mining to double the amount of stock we have, which is a massive inflation hedge to the money's current value. So it really makes it more scarce and limits the supply. Bitcoin, on the other hand, actually has a true finite number. It's 21 million. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. And currently there's been 18 million some plus mined so far. And the current stock to flow ratio, because every 4 years, Bitcoin halves its output to the miners. So when miners are mining however many blocks, the output currently is 6.5 Bitcoin is the reward. And before the halving, which happened last year in, I think, May of 2020, they were giving them 12, I think 13, because I think it's 6.5 now, so 13 Bitcoin as the reward. And then in 4 more years, roughly, it'll go down to 3.25. So the flow keeps going down and the stock doesn't move much, and the stock will only ever be 21 million. So at the next halving, which will be in 2024, the stock to flow ratio will be the highest of anything that humanity has ever seen, because it'll bring Bitcoin up to about 110, because right now it's at 55, I believe. I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to get into that. If that didn't make sense, just look that stuff up. I highly suggest looking into it. Anyways, Bitcoin has been weighed down by ongoing regulatory uncertainty and environmental concerns, such as the whole carbon footprint and stuff like that, which can be easily changed and altered. Not to mention, I think that's a bunch of FUD that's getting blown up. Regulatory concern would be China shutting them down. Another thing to note is Alibaba Cloud, China's largest cloud service provider, made calls to these mining companies saying, hey, we're shutting down your web address. So it's like AWS. Alibaba Cloud is kind of like AWS or iCloud, something like that. And this doesn't have much impact on the exchanges because their servicers and are all registered outside of China, but the mining companies will need to do some replacements. Quite inconvenient, I think, is what I would say about that. And institutional demand for crypto remains strong, which forced countries to compete in crypto-related businesses. Like all these mining companies are going to have to move. China, I think, is just so dumb to do this. But what do I know? For me, I think China, I don't know what they're exactly doing. They just see it as competition to them in one way or another. But I think the smart countries invite miners to come in and really build a strong foundation around the future, which is Bitcoin. For example, on Friday, Spanish banking giant BBVA is making its cryptocurrency trading and custody service available to private banking clients in Switzerland as of June 21st. Switzerland, obviously, a little more loosey-goosey, generally speaking, on their financial regulations. So that makes some sense, and that's a really good thing because the more and more that try this stuff out, and if they get good results, other countries, other organizations, other entities are willing to dip their toes in and take on more of this Bitcoin apple. Swiss Federal Council has enacted a new ordinance to regulate decentralized finance, DeFi, right, effective August 1st. News broke after Mark Cuban, who said he lost money from the price crash of DeFi token Titan. Straight up, my brother and I lost money on Titan also. We'd gone on QuickSwap, which is the Polygon network of DeFi, and we did the Titan ETH pool pair, and we did it at just perfectly the wrong time. We did it as this thing was crashing. Had we even gotten in a few days before, we could have at least made some money, but he lost about half of the ETH he put in. I lost all of mine. We didn't put in a ton. I only put in like $200 worth of stuff, which would be ETH and Titan. I think I still have some Matic sitting around, but I got busted by this thing, and a good learning lesson. I'm not going to mess around with that stuff. It had to do with their stable coin. The actual Titan thing was worth, I don't know, $40-50 when we got in. But the stable coin was, the problem was that it's supposed to be $1, but it was flaws in the system, and it made it like 96 cents. So people were exploiting that, and everyone sold off very quickly and made it all crash to zero. So stable coins, I think what Mark Cuban's really talking about, such as things like Tether, where they think they're making the coin, but they're not actually backed by anything. Because a stable coin should technically be backed by an actual dollar or an actual crypto asset and just adjust its value based on that asset. Mark Cuban and a lot of people, myself included, for things like Tether, we think that they're just making stable coins and just printing them, kind of like you print money, but they're backed by nothing. So it can really make them crash, just like Titan did. Grayscale said it's considering 13 more tokens, most of which are DeFi related, including 1-inch, Bancor, Curve, and Polygon, and 0x, among others. Grayscale is kind of like an ETF where it has a bunch of crypto tokens in it, such as Bitcoin, of course, and you can actually buy shares of it. You can't currently, but that's really the only thing of its kind that exists. I would love to get in on it, but they're currently closed. So it's interesting they're going to be buying more DeFi tokens. It looks like they're going to buy a lot of them to see which, throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Let's dive into this chart. So I showed you the 50-day, 200-day moving average up there that they had. It hadn't quite done the death cross yet. Let's go here and check live if this death cross has happened. So let me do this, and we'll take a look, right? Today is not June 21st, so this must be a projection. Today is June 19th when I'm doing this, but I don't know what time they're going by. But when I look at this, this was at, I don't know what time, but it says the 19th of June. the 200-day in light green there, you can see that it's at 42,941. And in black there, the 50 is at 42,880. So we have, in fact, at least at the moment, had a death cross. You're hearing it live, bulls. But seriously, what does that mean? It very well could put more fear into the system and drop the price of Bitcoin even more, which I don't really care. I'm happy because I hope it gets cheaper because I'll be able to get more from my money. I'm constantly buying Bitcoin. I don't really care about the price because I truly am very bullish on Bitcoin. I believe it will be the global currency eventually in my lifetime. And I'm 38, but I believe it will be the global currency, or at least a massive portion of it, in my lifetime. I think in the next 10 years, where it will be is astonishing. I think a Bitcoin will easily be worth $1 million within the next 10 years. Again, my opinion, not financial advice. Form your own, do your own research, make your own decisions. I'm just sharing my opinion. And I think that when we look at 30,000, 20,000 for a Bitcoin, I think we're going to be like, I cannot believe I didn't buy so much more. That's what I think we're going to be saying before you know it. Give it 10 years. I think it's going to be astonishing. I think within 5 years, by the next halving, I think it'll hit 500,000 in the next halving, which will be 2024. And I think it gets to about 150 during this bull cycle. That's just my guess, my opinion. I can't make it perfectly clear for you because it is just speculation on my part. Okay. But this death cross is happening. And so be on the lookout for Bitcoin. Me personally, I don't sell Bitcoin. I don't care what the price does because I know over time it goes up. In my opinion, that's what I think it does, not financial advice. This death cross, I'm not too worried about it. Not at all. I want the price of Bitcoin to go down so I can buy more because I only have so much money to spend. That's what I want to do. I want to literally buy as much Bitcoin as I can because I'm a true bull and I strongly believe it is the future. It makes so much sense. It makes as much sense as anything I've ever seen. And it just keeps progressing in that direction. It makes so much sense. Everything is just perfectly lined up for it. Bitcoin itself is its own entity at this point. Doesn't matter what happens to it. It stays decentralized. It overcomes adversity. And it isn't in control of anybody. Like everything that lines up for it has been so like divine. It's the only thing I can say is I feel like divinity has touched this thing and the universe has brought it into existence because humanity and Earth needed it. That's what I think. That's how I feel about it. You know, if you think that's weird, well, you probably go to church on Sunday too. And, you know, if you want to, don't judge my thoughts. I feel like the universe, whatever, brought this into existence because it needed to become. Because the American dollar and our current financial system and our way of trading is declining and failing. And it's just getting worse. Inflation's going up. More and more money's being printed and debased. And there's just no going back. And there's no saving it. The only thing that can save it is to throw the system out, but you can't do it overnight. So Bitcoin is slowly giving us a new financial base. Eventually, we won't talk about things in terms of dollars. We will talk about things in terms of Bitcoin. It's my opinion. I could go on and on about it, but this video's probably gone on long enough. Death cross coming. Watch out for some good buying opportunities, in my opinion, of Bitcoin. Thanks for watching, bullies. I will see you tomorrow. Remember, you're awesome.